So while people are wandering in, as they tend to do, since we try to start at 3, but we never know when people are going to come in, let's start off by hearing questions, reports about your own experiences with just doing the simple practice that we were trying to do this past week, of just bring our attention to the breath, or any questions or comments or anything that comes up from you guys? Yes.
I found it difficult for me to schedule and to figure out when I was going to do the mindful activity in a way that I think it's because I wanted to really be able to focus on it and also benefit from it.
Right.
So I wanted to schedule it at a time when I wouldn't be too tired, or maybe before a big project, so I could get the most out of it. But so I found myself kind of procrastinating it almost a little bit and finding trouble fitting it into my day. But I did notice that I was trying to be more mindful in stressful situations. So I found myself trying to pull from pieces of it in a more everyday way.
Right.
If I would become frustrated, just noticing that was frustration.
Great.
And trying to just be in the moment, I guess.
Great. Thank you. So it's good to practice it in real life, etc. But you brought up the difficulty of trying to schedule it in your day, and so we all live very busy lives, and so a lot of times it's really easy to kind of try to figure out, okay, so where do I fit this in? And so there's a couple of suggestions. Is just always remind yourself what your intention is here. Why are you doing this in the first place? And kind of, it's one of the reasons why it's really helpful to reflect from time to time. Okay, so what am I trying to do here? Who am I? What is my true intent here? And then try to connect with that. And then, as I said, you have to experiment sometimes with trying to find it one time during the day versus another. It's interesting because I got an email from a student who I'm teaching in the business school, and she said, oh, it's really hard for me to find 15 minutes. But then she looked closely and she saw that she finds 15 minutes easily to send email and chat on social media. And when she really looked at it really closely, she saw that this was not about finding 15 minutes. It was more just about kind of making a decision that this is an important 15 minutes to kind of practice what it's like to just be present and relaxed for my experiences. And so don't be hard on yourself. This is the one thing I always say when people take a class from me, this is not another class to feel guilty about. We do enough of that. But it's a chance to just be curious and take a look and then see if you can and just be present for whatever it is, right? Including the resistance that you have for, say, sitting down. And by doing so, you'll see more deeply into what's going on. But again, I would say try to connect with your intentions. Anybody else? Yes?
Well, I didn't do it every day, but I did manage to do it once. And I know once, not every day, so I was really happy I did it once. But it was, I feel like guided meditation is bittersweet. Because for one, your voice is telling us what to do, which is really cool. Towards the end, it was pretty awesome, but it's also a bit distracting for me to focus when there's a lot of talking going on.
Yes.
So, I mean, towards the end of the 15 minutes, it's a bit more focused on the breathing and stuff. But in the beginning, you're kind of setting it up for us, which is good, of course. But I don't know, I did find it a little distracting.
Yes. Great. So my suggestion is listen to it once and then don't, just use a timer or something like that, and don't bother. The guided meditations are just to help you to kind of recall. In a sense, it's kind of I just read a script, just follow the script and then drop the script and then do it on your own. And so you might be sitting there, just turn on a timer and say, I'm going to meditate for 15 minutes. And at the end of it, just go, geez, I'm not sure if I'm practicing this right. And then kind of turn on the guided meditation and then see, right? Because we're practicing something. And at some level, you want to make sure that you at least have the instructions and you can remember the instructions. And some people, again, some people love guided meditations, and they'll actually ask a question like, do I ever have to give up guided meditations? And other people, they don't like them. And to me, in the way, it's just a tool, and just like any tool, when you finish using the tool, you just drop the tool and let it go. And so, anybody else? Any other questions? Yes.
I guess just a comment. I felt similar, which we just said, like with the somewhat distracted from the voices. And then I tried it again on my own and felt a little distracted with my own thoughts, and it was a little harder to just go like cold turkey on it.
Right.
So, I don't know. Not sure what I'm going to do next.
Okay, well that's okay. So obviously you know that your experience, because you're reporting this, is that you have, we're just focusing on the breath, and today we're going to focus on the body. And of course you know that there's emotions that are coming up, and then of course you have thinking coming up. And so I'm going to teach you how to deal with all of these things, right? And the reason why I can't teach you, say, okay, I'm going to teach you all right now, is because that's going to make it very difficult. I have to teach this in a kind of a building up manner, and you'll see this, for example, today. And a lot of this is kind of like to understand the body, you have to understand the breath. Breath is part of the body. It's the body's sensation of breathing. And then to understand the body as a whole is another part of it. If you want to understand emotions, which we'll do next week, you have to understand the body. And to understand thinking, you have to understand emotions. And so if I flip it around and say, I'm just going to show you how to do thinking, the first thing you're going to do is go, okay, well, yeah, but how do I deal with emotions? And then if I say, okay, well, how do I deal with the body? And so you can see that I'm going in a direction that makes it, for some people, they say, I want to deal with my thinking. But what you have to do, like right now, is just kind of like, just relax and go with the flow that I'm going to give you, because you'll see how it all fits together as we go along, okay? And I know, so for right now, when you're thinking, and you see thinking come along, all you need to do is just go, this is thinking. Just use the simple words, this is thinking, right? And if an emotion comes along, and I'll show you how more to deal with emotions next week, if emotion comes along, just say, this is this emotion. If you don't know what the emotion's called, just say, this is an emotion. If you know what it's called, you can label it, say this is sadness, or this is peace, or this is calm, or joy, or anger, or whatever the emotion is. And you just say, this is what it is. And that alone, by just labeling it, again, I'm going to teach you a lot more about how to deal with these things as we go forward, but in the labeling of it, just by simply, quietly just labeling it, this is thinking, you'll see that it's a lot easier to let go of this thinking. You won't get as consumed in it. You won't find yourself all of a sudden getting into the stories and fantasies and conversations that usually thinking goes into. Okay? Anybody else? Yes?
Is it like equivalent to both focus? So say I'm like meditating and I'm focusing on my breath, but then that particular body sensation becomes prevalent, and then I get that you're supposed to sort of be mindful of that sensation.
Yes.
For as long as it's prevalent, right, and then come back to the breath. But if should your objective be to end up back with the breath, or can you just be mindful of whichever sensation is most prevalent?
Right. That's a very good question. And so this is something that it's a good time to clarify this, because a lot of people think, oh, I have a job, and my job is to get back to the breath. You don't have a job. There's no job here to get back to any place. Your job is to be mindful. And what happens is, as a practical matter, is that if your attention wanders away from the breath, like today we'll do it on the body, body sensations. Oftentimes what happens is that your attention is on these body sensations because they're very compelling. And by putting your attention on the body sensations, being mindful of them, oftentimes, not always, again, we'll have more to say about this, the body sensations are just not that compelling anymore. You won't have to get back to the breath. Your attention will naturally fall back to the breath. Because in what your sensations are, if you just close your eyes and just kind of you'll see that the only thing really going on is just, when everything else is not like, there's no dogs barking and there's no big emotions going on and there's no all this thinking going on, your dominant experience is just the breath. So my own personal experience, I just naturally follow back to the breath. But I want to be clear, your job is not to get back to the breath, right? In fact, I'll even go further, is that when all of a sudden you're able to just say, be with your emotions, be with your body sensations, be with your thinking, and they're not really bothering you, you're not being trailed off into kind of black holes with all of this, and you're just falling asleep and all of these other things that we tend to experience. When all of that's gone, you'll just find yourself on the breath. Right?
The breath is where I start if I'm lost in thought, but otherwise I'm just trying to get started.
Yeah. You'll learn eventually that if I'm on the breath and I'm lost in thought and I made that the object of meditation, you'll find that you'll just eventually end up at the breath. Okay? And so this actually raises a kind of a question about the body sensations, and this gives you kind of a little bit of a broader context to understand what we're doing here. Last week, all we did was we brought our attention to the breath, right? So we brought our attention to this kind of physical sensation. So it's a physical sensation of breathing in and breathing out. Being essentially just being present for it, meaning that we're not flinching away from it. We're not like saying, I don't want to see this, or I want to make a big deal about it. We're just being present for it. And we're not judging it. We're not putting a value on it. We're not comparing it. We're not commenting on it, doing all those things. And I just use the word relaxed for that. So we're just being present and relaxed for the breath. That's all we were practicing last week. And you can see that sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's more difficult because your attention wanders away. So your attention wanders away, right? It wandered away for all of you. And then when it wanders away, you simply just notice that it's wandered away. And then once you do that, you escort. And this is like one thing where you do escort, you're just, because your attention has wandered away. It's not an object of meditation. It's different than I'm going to place my attention there. It's just wandered away. And so we just escort it back to the breath. Okay? Okay, so we're going to do that until something potentially keeps our attention from just nicely being with the breath. Right? And what could keep our attention from nicely being with the breath could be either painful body sensations. That could do it. If I have back pain and I sit down, I might sit down and the first thing I know, I have this back pain that's like saying, geez, I need to deal with this. I really want to go and look at that back pain. It's really hard to stay with the breath. Next week it'll be it'll be emotions, and so you might be sitting there and you might have anger that comes over you, and it's really hard to stay with the breath. And then eventually we'll talk about thinking. Today we'll just talk about body sensations. So, a couple of things about the body, and then we're going to do a meditation so I show you how this works. A lot of people are disconnected from their body. It's interesting, if you are all dancers, you'd all say that's ridiculous, because you live in your bodies. But we're at a university, and a lot of people live in their heads. And because of that, they see their body as something that they just kind of like, that gets them from point A to point B, and that's basically it. Unless, of course, it starts hurting or something like that. But in fact, the body is really important to mindfulness meditation because the body and the body sensations are in the present moment. So if you ever want to get to the present moment, real fast, put your attention on your body. Not on your idea of your body, but on the sensations of the body. Those are what's happening in the present moment. If you look at your hand, and you look at your hand, immediately thoughts are going to come up. I like my hand, I don't like my hand, why didn't I do this, why is my ring here? All of these things are going to come on. If you close your eyes and say, what is the body sensation of the hand? All you feel, at least what I'm feeling right now, is I'm feeling a tingling sensation. I feel temperature of air, of coolness. That's the body sensation. Those are the body sensations. The thinking about, do I like my hand, don't like my hand, and all of that sort of stuff, that's not in the present moment. The body sensations are. So we actually use the body a great deal in mindfulness meditation because it's a foundation. So you might think of the body as being the foundation of the practice of mindfulness. And you'll understand more what I mean by that as we kind of go forward. And the reason why we'll do it today is also, as you can imagine, that almost all emotions get expressed in the body. So to basically be able to see how those emotions are expressed in the body, we first have to know our bodies, right? And so if you've never spent any time noticing the sensations in your body, if I ask you, how does that emotion manifest itself in the body, you'll say, I don't know. I never thought about it. But if you actually spend time in the body, and then later on I ask, how does that emotion manifest in your body? You'll go, oh, yes, I know my body sensations. So that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to actually look at at these body sensations, and I'll take you through a guided meditation so you can kind of see how this is done. Okay? How does that sound? Did you have a question? Okay, sounds good? All right. So can everybody hear me? This is like, this is one thing. I feel like I'm having to talk loud, and yet I'm trying to do a guided meditation, but I'm talking loud. It's much easier if I just talk softly, but I want you all to hear what I'm saying. And so I'm going to sit down here while we do this. And so we're going to just let's do it as a guided meditation, and then afterwards I'll kind of explain a little bit more about what we're doing, and then I'm going to set you up for how to explore this week. And so all I'd like you to do is just simply close your eyes, and like we've been doing, and as we did last week, see if you can just set up your body. And we're going to just set up the body by just becoming very aware of what's going on inside our body. And we'll do this first by just noticing the weight of our body. So one characteristic of a body is its weight. We can feel the weight of our body because the weight of our body is being expressed by the contact between, say, the chair and our seat. Some of the body is being distributed on the back of the chair, so just notice the contact point between your body and the back of the chair. Maybe you'll notice pressure there. Maybe you'll notice some other sensations like vibration or temperature. And then notice any sensations on the contact between, say, the soles of your feet and the floor. So we're simply just feeling the weight of our body and the way that it makes contact with the seat and the floor. And then lightly scan your body, starting with the head, top of the head, around the eyes, nose, cheeks, cheekbones, mouth, down to the chin and neck, looking for any sources of tension in your face right now. It's amazing how much tension we tend to hold in our faces. People don't realize this, but it's a body sensation. So see if you can just relax any tension that you have around your eyes, cheeks, around your mouth. And then do the same for your neck, chin, down to your shoulders and shoulder blades. Then all the way down through your body, through the torso, the upper legs, the thighs, knees, and down into the shins and calf. Oftentimes I actually scan my body twice for all of these points of tension, because in the first pass, I think I've really relaxed my body. And then when I do it again, I realize that there's still a lot more tension there that needs to be released. And so you might just try this once again, going from the top all the way to the toes. Just relaxing the body while keeping the body erect in the seat. So what you're doing is basically maintaining a posture that is alert and present, but at the same time relaxing your body, making it more supple, open, receptive, rather than all tight and closed down. And then when you're ready, on your own time, just bring your attention to the breath, the simple physical sensation of breathing in and breathing out. However you experience it, perhaps as the rising and falling of the belly, expansion and contraction of the chest, perhaps a sensation of air going in and out of the nose, down the throat. However you experience the physical sensation of breathing in and breathing out, just notice that. Be present for it. And be relaxed. No need to judge or comment on. Having our attention wander away from time to time. Every time we notice it's wandered away, we simply notice that it's wandered away. There's no reason to place value on this or self-criticize, comment or judge. Simply just notice it, escorting our attention back to the breath. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is to drop your attention on the breath. Instead, shift your attention to your right hand. Just place your attention on your right hand, the fingers of your right hand, in between the fingers of your right hand, the palm, the top of your right hand. Just noticing whatever sensations you experience in your hand right now. Perhaps you notice weight of your hand, vibrations or tingling sensations. Maybe you notice temperature. Whatever you notice, just notice it. No need to comment on it. You don't have to be for it or against it. Just simply observing the sensations of the right hand. If for any reason you find it difficult to notice these sensations, then another way to ask this question is, how do you know right now that you have a right hand? Without moving your fingers, how do you know it's there? What sensations are you experiencing that tells you that right now you actually have a right hand? So you can even allow your awareness to completely be within the entire right hand, noticing all the sensations, the outside and inside of your right hand. And so now, place your attention on any physical sensation in your entire body right now that you are experiencing. It could be a positive or negative sensation. Anywhere in your body where you feel some prominent physical sensation. And do exactly the same thing as we did with our attention on the right hand. Shift your attention to that physical sensation. It could be a pain or anything. And then just notice, what are the physical sensations associated with that physical experience? Again, is there a throbbing sensation? Is there vibrations or tingling? Do you notice temperature, like it's cool or warmth? Just become curious. And so often we have ideas about these experiences in our body. We see them as pain or something's going on in a certain part of our body. But here what we're doing is we're just seeing them clearly as just physical sensations. And if by doing this, the physical sensations seem to lessen and you're finding your attention wandering back to the breath, then place your attention on another physical sensation in your body. And then do exactly the same thing. See if you can dial into the exact physical sensation rather than the stories and ideas and concepts about the experience we're having in our body. Instead, tuning in directly to the physical sensation. The weight, the vibrations, the temperature. Or whatever experiences you're having right now. And again, if by doing this, your attention wanders away because the sensation isn't compelling, then move your attention to another body sensation. And again, you can do this with the body sensations anywhere in your body. You can try this, any body sensations you have in your face right now, or your shoulders, or your neck, or your back, legs, arms, hands. Attention will wander away. And when it does, just notice it's wandered away. I'm not here to judge or criticize, or I'm not trying to understand why. We're simply here to be present and relaxed for our experience. And so here we're just being present and relaxed for our physical experiences. Okay, so now for the last couple of minutes, just simply bring your attention back to the breath. And as you'll notice, the breath is just another physical sensation. So we're simply noticing the physical sensation of the belly rising and falling, or the expansion and contraction of muscles, or the sensations of air hitting our throat or through our nose. All the while being present for these experiences and being relaxed. Okay, so now just take a couple of deep breaths, and then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Right. Okay, so anybody want to report on what that experience was like, or simply just noticing our body sensations? Yes.
I had a really cool experience. There was like a pain in my neck,
Uh-huh.
and it felt like by focusing on it that I'd put an icy hot patch on.
Yeah.
Like first it went really, really warm, and then it really went cool, and then it went away.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Great, thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Noticed that my mind didn't wander
Right.
as much, because I think if you just start focusing on the breath, kind of go on autopilot
Yes.
in a sense. But if you're kind of actively sort of following different sensations, the
Right.
variety sort of keeps you more engaged in a sense.
That's right. Yes. In fact, one of the meditations that I'm going to have you try out is the body scan, where you systematically go through it. And that's what a lot of people report, is that as they're going through, they find themselves not thinking very much. But again, you can all do this for yourself. Like when you're walking down the street and you find your mind's just racing around, you can just say, okay, let me just look at my body sensations. And you'll see that by bringing yourself into the body, what you've done is brought yourself to the present moment. Yes?
I usually don't sit in chairs normally. It's like either recline all the way back or lean forward on the desk, and it's like just sitting there kind of focusing on that. It feels a lot easier to just sit straight up.
Right, right. Anybody else? Yes?
I know that you're supposed to be able to, no matter what you're feeling, sort of take that as your object of meditation. Do you have a suggestion if you're like feeling tired to, I guess, focus on or look at that mindfully as opposed to just, drifting or whatever it is?
Right.
Is there like a body sensation that you focus on there? I mean, I try, like, if I'm feeling drowsy, like, I'll my eyelids or whatever.
Right, right. Well, tiredness and fatigue is a problem that happens with a lot of people. And so, I mean, as usual, the basic thing is first be present for it and not judge it. But there's other things that we can say. Oftentimes what happens is that people get tired for a lot of different reasons. One is they're just tired. People don't get enough sleep. And so they come to meditation and they get into a quiet room like this. It's kind of dark, and you sit back in the chair and you kind of like lean back, and then I go into my kind of like late night FM radio kind of voice, and people will tell me that makes them tired, and so the next thing you know, they're just falling asleep. And so one thing that you can do is first make sure that you're not tired as much as possible. And then another thing you can do is that when you sit down, take a conscious posture. really set up. The physical sensation, the physical kind of like way that you want to think of yourself in your body when you sit to meditate is like a guitar string or a piano string, where it's like not too sharp and it's not too flat. And what happens is when people, and so that's one of the reasons why when we set up for the meditation, I'll say sit up in a straight, sit up, and so you sit up, and then I say relax your body. But what I'm doing is I'm relaxing the parts of your body that are not required for you to sit up straight. You're still sitting up straight, you're relaxing all the extra. And so when you do that, you sit in this nice place when you're between these two zones. And that by itself will keep you from falling asleep because you'll be relaxed, but you'll also be energized, and you'll have those two things. So by noticing with your posture is really an important part. What you can do if you're tired is you can open your eyes a bit, let some light in, and for some people that's really helpful. They'll open their eyes just a bit. You don't open your eyes like this. It's kind of like more just enough to let light in, and that alone will do it. As you'll see next week, and we'll have more to talk about this next week, some people, again, it kind of depends on the person. Some people, when they start to do meditation and they get really open and relaxed, etc., sometimes emotions come in. And those emotions are, sometimes they're very powerful emotions that people have repressed. And they don't like to see those. And the mind doesn't like to see that. It's not used to it because it spends so much of its time and energy kind of keeping it away. And all of a sudden, here it is. And a natural defense mechanism is for you to basically put you to sleep. And so people will fall asleep. And so that's something that we'll have more to say about next week. And so you have to kind of like, you have to be kind of like, look into this for yourself, kind of see what is the strategy that's best, and then kind of be curious about it. And so part of this whole thing is just to be mindful of what your experience is, and then just kind of be curious about it. And so in a lot of ways, just in that meditation, as I said, was, okay, so here's a body sensation. A lot of times when we have body sensations, we immediately go, ouch, or ooh, pain. we go actually to a conceptual idea of what's going on. And what mindfulness does is tries to get beyond the concepts. So it goes beyond the concepts, goes right to the physical sensation. Right?
So, I'm confused. What is the difference between going beyond, like, so you said that with a particular emotion, right, what you want to do is label it, but isn't that putting a concept on it?
Yes, and so there's times when we do put concepts on it, and I'll have more to say about that next week, right? So I understand, we are putting concepts on it, etc., and we do things. It's kind of like we use thinking, so we actually have thoughts, directed thoughts, when we're doing mindfulness meditation. So where I'm not here to say, oh yeah, we should get rid of our thinking or get rid of the labels. We use them when we need them. That's really one way to say about it. Like, oh, here, this would be really good as a way to kind of like let go of some of this thinking right now, is to put a concept on it. But in the case of the body sensations, and so this is different, we as people, you can try this for yourself. When you immediately have some body sensation, you immediately bring to that experience a label, you bring kind of stories, you bring commentary, lots of things, preconceived notions about what is going on right there. Right? I mean, that's just natural. And then what happens is with mindfulness, we actually dial in below, get beneath the concepts, right to the physical sensation. And so that is why we really spend time on the physical sensations, because the physical sensations are right here in the present moment. The idea is not. The idea is something you've thrown on top of it, right? It's extra.
Is that the eventual object with emotions?
Again, I don't want to get into emotions next week, but I will tell you that next week when we get into emotions, the first thing I'm going to be asking you is how does it experience in the body? So the body, that's the reason why understanding the body and the body sensations is really important. And so as you go through and do nothing more, I mean, I could have you, like what I would do in some classes, I would have you like all doing a body scan this week. And you'd say, well, why am I doing this? And then literally what I'm doing is just training you to be more sensitive to your bodies. Because next week you're going to need that. Right? And so, you know, people will report, they'll say, oh, this week I was really more sensitive to my body. I didn't realize that I had such pressure in my face, or I didn't realize I had such tension in over here. I didn't realize I had this kink in my neck. I didn't know, as one person said, that when I walk, I have such tingling in my toes. People were so totally unaware of these things. And so this is just the process of becoming more embodied, embodied. So like one of the things that we do a lot is we do walking meditation. And so walking meditation is part of like a physical experience. And so when you walk, you can do this right now as we walk around campus, is as you walk, what do you do when you walk? Most of you, I'm sure, are just like about everybody else. You're looking at your iPhone, or you're looking, your cell phone. You're totally oblivious to what's going on. You can put that away for just a few minutes and walk, just say between like one part of USC to another. It can just be a street, and do nothing but place your attention on the physical sensation of walking. And what you'll notice is, in terms of walking, all that's happening is your leg is lifting up, it's swinging, and it's placing down, and you're rocking, and you're lifting up and placing down, and et cetera, et cetera. That's the actual physical sensation of walking. You have all these ideas about walking, but that's the actual physical sensation. And so if you want to be more embodied, what you can do is you can sit down, and when you do meditation, you can do like what we just did and really notice kind of like our experiences. What are the physical sensations? And then when you walk outside, when you're walking from one place to another, you can spend more time just putting your attention in your body and seeing what that experience is like. Anybody else? Any other experiences? Yeah?
I know you talked about focusing on the breath and then focusing on the body.
Yeah.
And I found that after focusing on my body for a while, and when I returned to the breath, I looked at it in a different way.
Yes.
Rather than the air moving through.
Right.
Like my mouth or my nostrils is more like my lungs expanding.
Yes. That's exactly what would happen, right? Because you're becoming much more aware. See, again, you can see what happens is you say, okay, focus on your breath, and people immediately have this kind of cartoon image of what the breath should be, so they immediately go, okay, so this is it. And then what happens is you bring them into their body, and they go, oh my God, I didn't realize when I breathe, it's actually this whole experience that's going on. And so, again, all that's happening, all that's happening, and this is good news, is you're seeing the benefits of bringing your attention into the present moment. Because every single thing that you guys have talked about says, oh, I noticed this going on right now. I noticed this going on right now. I noticed this going on right now. That is all in the present moment. Now, if you can do that without commenting and saying this is good or bad or being for or against it, you're now practicing mindfulness. Right? That is the practice of mindfulness. Okay. All right. So anybody else? Any other questions? No?
I had experience washing dishes.
Great. Tell us about your experience washing,
Well,
because that can be a very physical
It's so
event.
weird because this was just the other night. I was washing dishes like frantically,
Right.
and I noticed that my jaws were clenched.
Yes.
Like I was mad at the dishes.
Amazing.
And
Mad at the
I was
dishes.
like, you need to just slow down.
Yeah.
And why are you angry at the dishes?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just took a couple breaths and just,
Yeah.
slowed down.
Right.
But it was weird.
Yes. We do this all the time. You do it. I do it. We all do it. And it actually brings up kind of an interesting question, which is that people who are really embodied, it's almost you can use the body experience as an early warning signal of other things that are going on. Because your body is going to be one of the first ways that is going to kind of like know what's kind of going on. right? So you might sit there washing the dishes and say, oh, now I am aware that I'm really angry or something like that. But if you look at your body was already expressing that probably 2 minutes before your mind even was aware of that. If you were really tuned into your body, you would see the beginnings of this anger. You'd start seeing your body tensing up.
Maybe
So-
it was the fact that I had to do the dishes.
Yeah, you would have noticed it right away. You would have been walking over there. You don't. We're so disembodied that we don't see these things. As we're walking over there, our body starts tensing up. All of a sudden, it's really tense, and then and all of a sudden, you say, "I really don't want to do the dishes." What came first? Probably all the body sensations came first, but you were unaware of them. And so body sensations, by just being more embodied, et cetera, are really interesting. And so one of the body sensations is listening, right? And so let's say you're sitting here and your next door neighbor is blaring music, right? And so here comes a body sensation, right? It just happens to come in through the ear, but it's a body sensation. So how do you handle that? Anybody? How do you handle there's loud music coming in? I know what your habits are going to be. I'm going to write a letter to the landlord. I'm going to call the police, etc. But how would you handle it mindfully?
Wouldn't it just be to pay attention to it without thinking about it and trying to follow it basically and not until it loses interest essentially?
Yes. Well, that's right exactly along the line of thinking. What you would do is you would place your attention on the physical sensation of listening, right? So your attention immediately, as you can imagine, is you're going to hear music. So here comes the music, and immediately your mind is going to start reacting to it, right? It's going to say, oh, I don't like that music. Why are these people doing this, et cetera, et cetera. Mindfulness would say, okay, we understand, have a lot of reactions to it. Let's put that aside for a second. Let's just see if we can tune in to what is the physical sensation. And the physical sensation is just airwaves hitting your ear. That's what's going on. It's airwaves hitting your ear. Everything else is you. Everything else is you. And so mindful listening is actually a good exercise. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't tell your neighbors to turn down their music. But it's a really interesting example of trying to see, well, what would it be like to be mindful of this? And so you can do this while you're walking around Los Angeles. Police car goes by, fire trucks go by. Everybody's going like, oh, this is so horrible, right? Because that's what people are doing. And you can just sit there and go, this is loud noise. How's that? Can you just hear the loud noise, the pressure, and that's it? And you'll watch loads of fire trucks go by, and you'll just notice it wasn't bothering you, because you were just basically just noticing with mindfulness what was going on. So mindful listening is an important thing. And then I just have one more word to say about the body, and then I'm going to send you off to practice this. Pain is a big deal. And so there's a lot of people who are in pain. They can be from football injuries or childhood injuries, or just as you grow older or whatever, people have back pain, etc. And so a lot of people, when they sit down to meditate, they immediately go, oh my God, I have this back pain, or I have knee pain. And it's a very big, pain is a big deal. And so one of the things that we do in mindfulness, and I know this because I have a back pain from a horseback riding injury from 2 times falling off a horse. I wasn't very good on horses, I guess, in my teens and early 20s. And so when I sit down, immediately I start getting, especially if I'm on retreat, I start getting back pain. It's real easy when the back pain comes to go, oh my God, back pain, horrible experience. I tighten up and everything gets like tight. And that, of course, makes the back pain even worse. With mindfulness, you learn to, for example, when you see it coming, not being afraid of it, not being for it, not being against it. It's real easy to be against it, saying, I don't want this to happen, right? but we're here to be not for or against something. So sitting there saying, okay, so all right, so this is the beginnings of back pain. I have a lot of stories about the back pain. What are the actual physical sensations? To actually go below the concepts, beneath the concepts, right to the physical sensation. And when you do this, you'll learn that there is a difference between the physical sensation, which is real. There really is a physical sensation associated with this pain. That's the pain. Everything else is the suffering. And that is the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And so you learn by basically sitting there, and you'll learn this week by watching fire engines go by and all these things that we're talking about, where you really learn, oh, okay, the suffering I'm doing to myself. The rest of it is just body sensations, right? All right, so this is the plan for this week. And I'll send you an email. You'll get it later tonight. And what it'll do is it'll take you to the website. From the last email, you'll know where I'm going. On the website are 3 or 4 different guided meditations that have to do with the body. And what I would suggest is just choose one or use all 4, or don't, or try it and then turn it off and then do your own. One is like a 15-minute body scan, so you can try that. See what that's like. One's a 30-minute body scan. One is a 30-minute meditation for anybody who has pain. And so it'll walk you through exactly everything I was just talking about. And then there's one that's like just 10 minutes that basically is very similar to what I just did with you right now. So you can kind of pick and choose, etc. But this week, what I want you to do is to get in touch with your body, right? And so you can do this through walking, get in touch with your body. And then my final word is that this is a good week to try to do one activity. Any activity that you do, washing dishes, brushing your teeth, you can actually do it mindful eating, or anything. You choose. Just find one during the week where you basically just do that. You just do that. Brush your teeth and just notice while you're brushing your teeth the physical sensations of brushing your teeth. Just put your attention there. The feeling of the brushes. The feeling of the brushes. And see if you can just stay with that and see what that's like. You'll need all of this for next week when we meet and we talk about your emotions. Okay? All right. Have a great week. I'll see you next week. Thank you all.
Thank you.